All four teams of the NFC East have been eliminated from the 2025 playoffs. So in this video, we are going to be doing a mock draft for every single team in the NFC East. So you guys, we are going to be doing a mock draft for every single team in the NFC East. It's just me today, riding solo for this one. We're going to go through every single team, talk a little bit about their season and what their team needs are, and then we're going to eventually get to that 3-round mock draft for each team. We're going to start from the bottom and work our way to the top, beginning with the New York Giants. The New York Giants would go 4-13 on the season, and if you look at some of the numbers right here, they were 16th in points per game, 13th in yards per game, 15th in touchdowns per game, 26th in opponents' points per game, and basically kind of in like the bottom 10th in a lot of these defensive categories, which honestly, like when you look at these numbers, the numbers really are not that bad for a 4-win team. So for the New York Giants, when you're actually doing a mock draft for this team, it really should not be that difficult. Their team needs are pretty obvious. I mean, obviously the good news, you have your quarterback in Jackson Dart. You just hired a new head coach in Harbaugh, which I think is a pretty solid hire. You have Scatabo, you have Neighbors, you have your tackles if you bring back Illuminor, Abdul Carter, potentially Kayvon Thibodeau, Bobby Okereke, et cetera, et cetera. This is a really talented football team that if they can just nail this offseason, spend the money properly in the free agent market, make the right moves in the draft, we could be talking about the New York Giants being an underrated team that might find their way into the playoffs because they have a lot of the pieces necessary to get to that spot. So with that said, our job here is not to go crazy in this mock draft. Our job here is just to fill needs for this team. So starting off here at number 5 with the first pick goes Fernando Mendoza, 2 Arvell Reese, 3 Jeremiah Love, and 4 Caleb Downs. I think there's a variety of different ways we could go here with this pick. Obviously, probably the more common picks you're seeing here are Jordan Tyson and Carnell Tate. But if you want to look outside of the box, think Jermod McCoy, Mansour Delane, especially if Jermod's injury history ends up being fine and he looks good running during the combine and things like that. Spencer Fano, Francis Mauigoa makes a ton of sense too because they could use offensive line help. They don't have a 3rd-round pick, so we do have to take that into account here that we have to make hay with our 2 picks here with this one. My immediate thought process here is I'm picking between Tyson and Tate. I just think they're probably the better talents and on the board. And frankly, with the top 5 pick, I think you want to hit. Unfortunately, I don't think this year has like a super high-end CB1. I think McCoy and Delane have a ton of talent, but I wouldn't necessarily call them like a Jalen Ramsey type of prospect. They're really good prospects. They could be CB1s for some team. But spending a top 5 pick, you're looking for some major upgrade. And I just feel like we're reaching a little bit there. And it's a really solid cornerback class. So we can maybe with our 37th pick, take a Colton Hood, a Keith Abney, somebody along those lines. So I lean receiver here. I just think Tyson and Tate are really enticing prospects. Now, if Tyson didn't have the injury history, then I would take him here because I just think he's the better player than Carnell Tate. I think he works so well in the underneath, in the intermediate. He's really advanced in his route running. The only thing that I really don't like about Tyson is I think he could be better in terms of the deep ball game, but I think there's a lot to like about Tyson. The question just comes down to the injuries. Like, he doesn't have a singular sustained injury he suffers year in and year out. Like, if you watch basketball, Steph Curry had ankle injury after ankle injury after ankle injury. Not really the case with Jordan Tyson. It's just kind of random injuries, like an ankle one here, a shoulder here, this, and that. It's kind of frustrating with Jordan Tyson, but if you think he's fine, if you think he's going to be able to hold up at the NFL level, then taking Jordan and Tyson here would check out for the New York Giants. But you also have to throw into the account that New York Giants Stadium, whether you want to believe it or not, it's a little bit cursed. Guys get hurt every single year, it feels like. And if you're a Giants fan, getting an injury-riddled player doesn't really make the most sense with a top 5 picks. So with that said, because I do think Tyson and Tate are still relatively close in terms of a grade, you can see PFF has it 7th and 8th, and I would say most people have these guys kind of within 5 spots of each other. I'll take Carnell Tate here. Number 1, because I think he'd be a great fit next to Malik Neighbors. He's always been a number 2 option. He's never been the number 1 guy. Had he had years as being the number 1 guy, then maybe that might change my thought process here a little bit, but he's always been the number 2, and that's what he would be for the New York Giants, because you would have Malik Neighbors. You already have Theo Johnson, right? And now you just need that second option in the receiving core. Carnell Tate fills in very nicely. You have 2 guys that can win deep. You have guys that can win in the intermediate. Malik Neighbors really good with the ball in his hands. Carnell Tate not so much, but Carnell Tate catches damn near everything, and he stays healthy, and he's reliable. I just feel like he'd be such a great gift to a young quarterback like Jackson Dart. So I'm going to go with I'll go with Cardinal Tate here. All right, 37. I like kind of how the way his board fell for us here. I think Caleb Lomu, he plays pure left tackle. I don't think that he's much of in play here, but Emmanuel Pregnon is really enticing because, we have these older guards and, we'll see what happens with Marcus and Bo and kind of where he ends up filling out. But Emmanuel Pregnon is kind of an instant upgrade at the guard position. Some other options we could consider here, Jennings Dunker, Chris Johnson. I think he's really, really good. Little bit undersized. It says 6 foot 185. I think he's more like maybe 6 foot 5'11, 185. We'll see if he puts on some weight. But I think I'm gonna lean towards an offensive lineman here, just because I like the thought process of taking an Emmanuel Pregnon, having my 2 tackles again, assuming we bring back Illuminor, upgrading that interior slowly but surely. Let's take Emmanuel Pregnon here to kind of shore up the interior of our offensive line. So with this mock draft, again, we took Carnell Tate and Emmanuel Pregnon. I would say for the New York Giants, that's a pretty good draft. All right, moving over, we have the Washington Commanders, who went 5-12 and had a dismal end of the season, a minus 95 point differential, 2-6 at home, 3-6 on the road. Just not the year that a lot of Commanders fans thought they were going to have. Let's not forget, just last year, this was a team that was in the NFC Championship game. And yeah, the NFC Championship game was not particularly close, but they were in that game. They had a chance to win it and potentially make a Super Bowl run in the rookie year of Jaden Daniels. Now, heading into this year, admittedly speaking, I was fairly low on Washington in terms of I didn't think they were going to make an NFC Championship game. I thought they'd maybe make the wild card, and that just didn't end up happening. They have so many injuries all across this roster. This team just badly needs depth, options, and just more pieces to this team. They should have a little bit of some cap flexibility this offseason. And, when you look at the numbers here, I think there's stuff that you can work with, right? 21st in points per game, 22nd in yards per game, 18th in touchdowns per game. Defensively, really bad this year. 27th in points per game, 32nd in opponents' yards per game, and 27th in opponents' touchdowns per game. Some positives, though, on the offense. You were a top 10 rushing offense. We'll have to see what this offense looks like. New OC in the building. We'll see kind of what ends up, playing out there with that offense. But with that said, 3-round mock draft for the Washington Commanders. We do have a top 10 pick. We have the 7th overall pick. And again, unfortunately for the Washington Commanders, they don't have a 2nd-round pick, so we're working with just a 1st and just a 3rd. Ooh, but I love the way the board fell for us here. Okay, interesting. Fernando goes 1, Caleb Downs goes 2, Ruben Bain 3, Jeremiah Love 4, Jordan Tyson 5, Peter Woods at number 6. That's a kind of a bizarre pick here for the for the Browns. You just took a guy last year. I don't know if interior defensive line's your biggest need. Same with safety for the Jets. I mean, I know they need a safety, but at number 2, it's a little bit rich. I feel like this is kind of cheating because is Reese and Tate really going to be here? I don't know. But you know what? The board fell this way, and there is always the possibility that it could end up going that way in the actual draft. If this is the case, this might be best case scenario minus like a Caleb Downs being available here. But, you can only pick one. I think receiver is a need for this team. You have Terry McLaurin. What do you have outside of that long term? Carnell Tate is in play. Plus 2 Ohio State guys. By the way, look at 3 Ohio State of the top 4. Crazy that team did not go farther in the playoffs. David Bailey would give this team some much needed juice off the edge. Arvell Reese, he could be an off-ball linebacker. He could be your replacement for Bobby Wagner. And he can also play a little bit off the edge, give you some juice as a blitzer, kind of just be an all-around playmaker for that defense. I love the idea of that. I think secondary is a massive need too. Jermod McCoy, Mansour Delane. It feels like they have to be in play here, but with the way the board fell, given the fact we have a Bailey, we have a Reese, and a Tate, I just feel like if I take one of these corners here, I feel like I'll be reaching quite a bit. Maybe they can address that in the offseason with a Reek Woolen or somebody like that. I'm going to take Arvell Reese. I think Arvell Reese is a special talent. Again, play him off the edge, play him as a pure off-ball linebacker. As the year progressed for Ohio State, he got closer and closer to the line of scrimmage. And eventually, by the end of the year, he was kind of not a full-time defensive lineman, but that was mainly what his biggest role was. Again, for Washington, I'm intrigued to see how they would employ him, but what team, or should I say, what coach would be better for an Arvell Reese than Dan Quinn, aka the guy that turned Micah Parsons into what he is today? So let's take Arvell Reese here for the Washington Commanders, and he can be your quote-unquote Micah Parsons for the Commanders. All right, 71, we have, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren is here, but they don't really need a safety. I mean, they could use a safety for sure. I'm not saying they don't, but I feel like they have bigger needs. He is, though, I think probably the best player here. He's inside probably my top 50, so I don't hate that. Let's look at the cornerback room here. D'Angelo Pons, love the guy, but man, him and Mike Sainristil, that height duo, no sir. I know Julian Neal's going to be very high on a lot of teams' board, 6'2", 208. Decent enough athlete. I think his long speed is a little bit questionable, but his biggest issue is just he has all the tools and tangibles, and he reads routes very well, but man, he gets burnt quite a bit, and that's kind of a scary thing about him, and he has to recover a lot. He just doesn't have great recovery speed. Let's look at linebacker here as well. No, not here. Like Torian York, but man, he is tiny. He's 5'10". It's really hard to succeed as such a smaller linebacker. Only a handful can survive that. If you're 6 foot, 6'1", that's a bit different. 5'10", that's a bit hard to get me here. I'm honestly, I think I'm leaning towards Emmanuel McNeil-Warren here. Let's look at edge. Derek Moore. Okay, actually, Derek Moore's not a bad player. 6'3", 260. Decent pass rusher, has some good productivity. Has been in college football for a while, so he's got some moves to him. This one comes down to Derek Moore and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Because we took Arvell Reese, I think we can use Arvell to just kind of get after the quarterback, cause some havoc. By the way, tight end's also a huge need for this team. I didn't even consider tight end. Max Claire's on the board here. What other pick do they have? They have, they have 5 picks this draft. Oh, man. Maybe you trade back at 7 to get some more capital, because that's tough, man. That is brutal. I didn't even realize that. Okay, so, man, I feel like we might end up having to go with the tight end here instead, because there's a lot of safeties in this class that you could take later down the board. Tight end starts to thin out towards the end. Like if you can get a Michael Taff or one of these guys down the board, Bud Clark's a pretty solid talent. I like him quite a bit. I think you just do that, and for now pick up the tight end. Let's go tight end here. Let's do Max Claire. Really good receiving threat. I think he's also a decent enough blocker as well. So I guess we'll take Max Claire here. I kind of switched up towards the end there. But yeah, safety Emmanuel McNeil-Warren was there too. I would have considered him. PFF gives me a great job. Arvell Reese and Max Claire. Sure, I'll take that.
Howdy there, partner. You must be enjoying the content. If you are, go subscribe down below. Welcome to the family. Look forward to seeing on more videos going forward. Let's get back into this video right now.
All right, next up, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys finished the season 7-9, minus 40-point differential, 4-3-1 at home, 3-6-0 on the road. When you look at their stats this year, man, it was a up and down year for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, so many great games, so many great moments, but the defense, when it came down to it, was just horrendous this year. Look up the offensive stats here. Top 10 in points per game, yards per game, points per play, yards per play, close on third down conversion rate, sixth and fourth down conversion rate. They're decent in the red zone. I mean, again, look at all these top 10 offensive numbers. And then it's the polar opposite on the defense. Dead last in opponents' points per game. Second to last in opponents' touchdowns per game. Third to last in opponents' yards per game. Just bottom 5 in so many categories. They got better against the run. I think the stats should show that, and I think if you watch the games, it would show it. But their pass coverage was so horrendous this year that they're going to be a team that has a lot of questions to answer. The good news for them, they have 2 first-round picks. The bad news for them, you take away the 2 first-round picks, they don't have another pick till 112. So again, another set of mock drafts here where we have the 2 first-round picks. For the Dallas Cowboys, they have pick number 12 and pick number 20. With the first overall pick, Fernando, then Jeremiah Love goes to the New York Jets. Oh boy, I'm sure Jets fans are going to hate that one. Cardinals take Arvell. Titans take Ruben Bain. Giants take Caleb Downs. Fun pick there. The Browns take Tyson. Commanders go Bailey. Saints go Tate. Chiefs go Micaiah Lemon. Okay, interesting. Peter Woods goes to the Bengals, and then of course Kendrick Falk goes to the Dolphins. I think the board actually is quite clear here for Dallas. These top 3 are my top 3 names for this team. Sonny Styles, if you want a linebacker that is really solid in coverage, gets downhill in a hurry, long arms, good length, good size to him, then yeah, Dallas could definitely use him next to DeMarvion Overshown. You'd have 2 freaky athletes at linebacker. Don't hate that. If Jermon McCoy's, tests come out okay in terms of the ACL injury he suffered over a year ago, I think at this point, then I'm okay with McCoy, but I would prefer Mansour just because I think he's a bit more of a sure product. And because you do have Deron Bland and his flexibility, Mansour also gives you some flexibility too, to where you can kind of play those guys inside or outside depending on, who you're going up against and just who's better in training camp. So because I think linebackers are a very deep class this year, like we could wait till pick 20 and take an Allen and a Hill. And if one of these guys falls to that 112, maybe we can trade back up in the 3rd round. I'm not going to. I'm saying we, as in the Dallas Cowboys, could. Although I should say corner is also a fairly deep class here as well. Like you can take a Avion Terrell, which I'm just not the highest on Terrell. I felt like he really struggled this year. I know the numbers, I mean, 83.5 is a really solid grade. But I thought he was just a lot worse in man coverage. Gave up a lot of receptions and targets, touchdowns. Just watching the tape, he is just really small. And having a secondary duo of Deron Bland, who is a terrible run defender, and Avion Terrell, who just doesn't have the size to survive, that scares me quite a bit. I'm going to go, I think, with Sonny Styles. And then I'll probably lean on like a Colton Hood with my 20th overall pick. So we'll take Sonny Styles here. Again, I think Mansour Delane makes a ton of sense here too. But his lack of size would scare me a little bit. So let's go Sonny Styles. I think he'll drastically help out this team. And we're back up here at number 20. Jermon McCoy almost fell to us, which would have been a godsend, but Mansour goes right after. And so it does Avion Terrell. We could take one of these top tackles, by the way, because we are going to have a tackle issue this year. And you know what? With the way the board fell, I mean, Colton Hood is probably the guy that I would consider here. And I like Colton Hood quite a bit. Got some size to him, got some length, very young prospect. But we can get a surefire tackle who's an instant plug-and-play starter at right tackle in Spencer Fano. I think Spencer Fano is a hell of a player. I know the number, 92.6 last year, this year 84.0. I thought he was really good this year. You take out the Tech game, and even in the Tech game, I didn't think he was bad by no means. You let him play right tackle, you get off the Terrence Steele contract. Like, I think sometimes you just don't overthink it. Let's go Spencer Fano here for the Dallas Cowboys. If a team wants to trade up to potentially take Ty Simpson, we would love to talk about it. Like if Pittsburgh's willing to give up like a 4th round pick and we get, move back one spot, or Cleveland wants to trade up to 20 for Ty Simpson and they give us a 3rd, sure, run that trade in. We'll go back a few spots and just take Colton Hood or one of these tackles that falls to us, but no trades in this mock draft. So let's run with, let's go with Spencer Fano here for the Dallas Cowboys. And that's going to conclude the Dallas Cowboys draft. We got Sonny Styles and Spencer Fano. Don't think you could be too mad about those ones. And lastly, let's go ahead and talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles went 11-6, had a 54-point differential, 5-3 at home, 6-3 on the road. When you look at the numbers of the offense here, you can see the offense was kind of struggling this year. 19th in points per game, 24th in yards per game, 16th in touchdowns per game. They were kind of mediocre in the run game and very mediocre in the passing game. On the defensive side of things, though, top 10 in points per game, top 10, or I guess top 12 in opponents' yards per game, top 10 opponents' touchdowns per game, decent against the run, decent against the pass. This Eagles team was just up and down because, frankly, the play calling was up and down all year long. And that's going to be the question that's going to, have to be answered. Who's the offensive coordinator? And what happens with Nick Sirianni, and what does this team look like? Does A.J. Brown on the team next year? Because I think that's a legitimate question here as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at the mock draft simulator. 3-round mock draft for the Eagles, who have 23, 54, 68, and 98. So we got 4 picks here for the Philadelphia Eagles. And all right, let's go ahead and look first. Fernando goes 1, Downs 2. Anything interesting here? Cowboys go Peter Woods. Okay. Mansour Delane to the Ravens. Denzel Boston goes early. Cassius Howard goes to the Dallas Cowboys 2. All right, let's go 23. A couple options here. Francis Mauigoa makes a ton of sense. He can play tackle. He could be your long-term play for Lane Johnson. I know there's some young guys there, but I think Francis can play tackle. And I also think he could be an instant plug-and-play player at guard that fits exactly what Philadelphia wants to do. That mauling, physical, puts you in the dirt mentality. Francis definitely has that. Kenyon Sadiq is here. If you don't bring back Dallas Goedert, and even if you do bring back Dallas Goedert, I still think 2 tight end sets of Sadiq and Goddard would be very interesting. But I think we can spend the 68th or 54th pick on Max Clare and feel just fine about it. Obviously, edge is a big time need. They need more production off the edge. Unfortunately, the board didn't fall my way. Maybe I would have considered TJ Parker here, but I'm not gonna take any of these guys here. It just feels a little bit early. Let's go Francis, man. We're gonna kick him inside to play guard, and once Lane retires, he might be our option at right tackle. 54. Ooh, Eli Stowers. That's just basically another receiver, if we're being honest with each other. I don't hate that. Let's look at corner here too, because I think that's also a need. Keontae Scott. He's a slot guy. In fact, I think we can maybe wait for Julian Neal at 68 or 98, one of those 2 positions. I see Joshua Josephs here. I mean, he has the goods to be a good pass rusher. They definitely need that. I think my initial lean here is Joshua Josephs, just because I feel like I can wait for tight end and maybe get lucky and snag Justin Jolie at 98 if he falls. If not, I feel okay with some of these other names too. I think tight end's a pretty deep class this year. And again, they have Dallas Goedert, who they can easily bring back. Obviously Jalen Phillips is a big part of your edge rotation next year, but can you afford him? Is he going to leave? Is he going to want more money? Let's go with Joshua Josephs here. I think Josephs is a very underrated player. Good set of pass rush tools, good length, good size. Put on good tape this year. He's still a developing player. I think it's a high upside swing here. Let's take Joshua Josephs out of Tennessee. All right, 68. We have the Eagles up, and we have taken Francis Maui-Noah and Joshua Josephs. I like the idea of Max Clare here. I think that one makes a ton of sense. Look at corner really quickly. Man, the board hasn't really moved a ton here. We could take Manny Muhammad in 98 and feel really solid. I'm taking Max Clare here. I think that's back-to-back drafts. We took Max Clare, but man, he just makes so much sense. Or not back-to-back. We took Max Clare for the Commanders, I want to say. But I think this pick makes just a ton of sense. You have Dallas Goedert. He is getting up there in age. Max Clare is a really good receiving threat. Was great last year. This year for Ohio State, competing for targets. I still thought he was really sharp out there. And maybe is he an even better player because he got into higher levels of competition. Let's take Max Clare here for them. And then up at 98, we could have taken Justin Jolie. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Sometimes it happens that way. Francis, Joshua Josephs, and Max Clare. Let's look at the corner room. And okay, I like the idea of taking Manny Muhammad here. I think he checks out a lot of boxes. Let's look at the rest of the board here real quick. Yeah, Justin Jolie would have been a nice pickup. Another one of these bigger receiving threat options that you can flex out as a slot guy. Love the idea of that. That would be freaking awesome. I think I'm going to take Manny Muhammad here, though. I feel like we're just addressing literally every single one of these needs here, which I think PFF has it kind of on the head there for their big needs. Manny Muhammad would kind of be your third option at corner. Obviously, I don't think it's the most ideal pick at corner, but I thought he's been really solid for Texas. Good size, good length. Really smart player that I think excels in zone. Can get burnt a little bit deep, but that's why you have Blankenship, and that's why you have a Brown. So let's take Manny Muhammad to fill out this team. And here we go. First pick, Francis Maui-Noah, Joshua Josephs 2, Max Clare 3, and Malik Muhammad or Manny Muhammad out of the Texas Longhorns. Guys, please let us know in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on my 4 mock drafts for the NFC East teams? We're planning on doing this for every single division out there. So hit the like and subscribe button, and we love you guys. Peace.